Okay, so we are going to continue on in our factoring unit. So what we have done so far is we have learned how to GCF, or find the greatest common factor of two or more polynomials. We've also learned how to factor by grouping. So next, we are going to learn how to factor a trinomial and certain binomials. Okay. In order to do that, I use the method that I call crisscross method. And so what you actually do is you make an X and you fill in spots. So we're going to do this worksheet front and back to kind of get in to learn the way of how to work with crisscross. So this is what it means. So the number that goes up top is the number that's found by multiplying the two sides. The number that goes down below is the number that is found after adding these two sides. So here are my two sides, 3 and 5. So I'd multiply them to get the top number, so that'd be 15. But then I add them to get the bottom number, so that is 8. Okay? Sometimes on this worksheet, I'm not going to just give you the two sides. I'm going to give you something else. So on this one, remember, this is the multiplication answer. This is the addition answer. They actually gave us one of the terms, so 7. So they're saying 7 times what, which will go over here, will give us 21 when we multiply. So that'd be 7 times 3. And so once you have those two terms, you can figure out what goes down below, because that's the addition of those two terms. So again, it's really, really important that you guys know your factors of numbers, because as you can see, we're going to be using factors a lot. If I look at 15, this is the addition number. So they're saying 3 plus what number would give me 7. So that'd be 4. So once you found that number, you can find what they multiply to. So 3 times 4 gives me that 12. Okay? So go to the back of this. Oh, guys, just as an FYI, this page comes in your note packet after that quiz review. Okay? So it's about halfway through your packet. All right, on the back. So this is actually what you're going to most likely be seeing our factors as. So when we start factoring trinomials, we're going to do a crisscross, and we're going to put the number that it multiplies to up top, so negative 30, and the number it adds to down below, which in this case would be 1. So that's what it's going to look like. So now what we are actually finding are the two numbers that multiply to equal negative 30, but then those two numbers also have to add to equal 1. So 30, if I think of the factors of 30, I have 1 and 30. That's a factor pair. I have 2 and 15, another factor pair. 1 and 30 does not make the number 1 if I add or subtract them. 2 and 15 do not make the number 1 if I add and subtract them. 3 and 10 go into 30. No combination of 3 and 10 make 1 when I add or subtract them. The next number is 5 times 6. There is a combination of 5 and 6 that would give me 1. So let's put in 5. Let's put in 6. So now we know 5 times 6 does give me 30, and some combination of 5 and 6 makes 1. But we want a negative 30 when I multiply. So to get that negative 30, that means one of these two numbers has to be negative. Well, I have to figure out which one has to be negative, because when I add them, I want the number 1. So that would be a positive 6 minus 5. So my two factors would be negative 5 and positive 6. It does not matter if you switch these boxes and put 6 in this box and negative 5 in this box. That's okay. All right, so let's look at this guy. So two numbers that multiply to 16 that add to 8. Actually, I'm going to skip that one. We're going to go backwards to 23. I think you guys can get that one. 42. So two numbers that multiply to negative 42 but add to negative 1. So I know 2 times what? 2 times 21. 2 and 21 don't make 1. 1 times 42, that doesn't make 1. 3 goes into it 14 times, I think. So 3 and 14 don't make 1 in any way, shape, or form. 4 doesn't go into it. 5 doesn't go into it. 6 times 7 does go into it, so 6 times 7. And 6 and 7, some combination of those numbers does give me negative 1. So I'm going to put 6 and 7 in here. Now remember, when I multiply these, I want a negative 42, so that means one of these two numbers is negative. But when I add them, I want a negative 1. So that means my 7 would have to be negative, and this 6 is positive. Let's look at 29. 29 states that when I multiply these two numbers, I get a positive 55, but when I add these two numbers, I get a negative 16. Well, really, the only way to get a negative 16 when I add means that one or both numbers has to be negative. And the only way to get a positive number when I multiply two numbers is if they're both positive or if they're both negative. Since when I add, I want a negative, that means that both of these numbers are going to be negative. So 1 times 55 gives me 55, but that doesn't make 16. 2 doesn't go into it. 3 does not go into it. 4 does not go into it. 5 does go into it. 5 and 11. And some combination of 5 and 11 does make 16. But remember, we have to have a negative and a negative. Is it true that a negative 5 and a negative 11 makes negative 16? So I'm right here at 0. I'm going to go back 5, and then I'm going to go back 11 more, which does give me negative 16 when I add. So what I want for you to do is complete the front and back of this worksheet just the way that we were just going over it. Where you're finding the factors of the two numbers. So the two numbers on the side are the numbers that multiply to the top number, but those two numbers add.